It's Wednesday. It's time to wake up. You were born to be rich, abundant, and successful. Wake Up Wednesday starts right here, right now. So, this week, we're going to be looking at the effects of being bullied or bullying. My daughter Megan is an elementary social worker, and I wanted to talk to her about bullying from her perspective. So, how do you see bullying showing up in schools these days? Do you see a lot of it or not quite so much?
There's a ton of bullying happening right now. Most of it is online, texting, Snapchat, uh, TikTok. That's where most of it's happening. It doesn't happen as often in the building anymore, which has been a big shift. It's a lot
Yeah,
more
and I think that's partly because social media and all of that stuff is so impersonal. I
Yes.
think if people could see the other person's face, they
hmm
wouldn't do it nearly as much.
Yeah.
So, and what do you do when you find out somebody is bullying or being bullied in your school?
Typically, we talk to the kid who is being bullied first just to see what's going on from their perspective as far as things are what is something being said, is something being done. Um, and we kind of get just an idea of who is probably involved in the situation, and we get an idea of like specifically what's being said. Normally, we get a call from a parent that's like, "This kid's picking on my kid," so we try and like get a little bit more information. So we start there. Usually, we'll talk to the kid that's getting bullied and ask them if they want to sit down and have a meeting with the kid that's bullying or the kids that are bullying. Um, and it's probably like 75-25. They usually will sit down with those kids and like have a conversation and express how they're feeling and how what they're doing is making them feel. So when that happens, we bring the kid in that's bullying. Usually we'll have like a separate meeting and we talk to the kid that's being bullied of like, what do you want to say? What do you want to get out of this? What can we do to help get that be the goal and the achievable thing? And then the next time we all sit down, the kid that is bullying or kids will come, we'll all sit down together and we kind of let the kid that's being bullied take the wheel, kind of give them some of that power back to explain to the bully what's going on and how they're feeling when those things are happening, or when those things are being said. And typically the kids are like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. Like, I'm so sorry. And it's like a very good resolution, but it also teaches them how to do it themselves, which is nice. Uh, so next time it happens, they'll have a conversation, usually before we'll get brought into it. And they'll say, like, well, we tried to talk to them, but this time it didn't work. Uh, they're still doing it. Or they'll say, I don't want to have another meeting because it didn't do anything last time. And they just picked on me more because of it. And that unfortunately does happen. So then they normally come in and sit and talk to me. And we have a conversation about the next time this happens, like it's going to be a consequence. Like I don't dish out consequences. That is, thank goodness, not part of my job. But they will meet with somebody that it is their job and they will be given a consequence because bullying, it has to be repetitive for there to be called bullying. So we have to, I document everything. And then at that point, you're being a bully and we have to follow through on like New York State's laws around bullying.
Yeah, so that is good to know that there are, in most cases, they just don't know what's going on and they apologize. So I think that is wonderful to know.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody how would you have somebody respond if somebody they know is being bullied? How would you ask them to start the process?
Usually it's to tell somebody like an adult where it's happening. So, I mean, I guess obviously I deal with kids the most. So when it comes to kids, like if it's happening at school, like talking to an adult at school when it's happening. So if something happens in gym, you go and you tell your teacher. If it's happening during dismissal, you get home, you tell your adult to call the school. Um, when it's adults, I guess it probably looks a lot different because obviously in that situation, you're an adult, so you have to handle it yourself. But it's a lot of boundary work. It's a lot of like you set your boundary and you don't give anybody free access to you if they're not respecting that boundary. They need to hear you and listen and respect it. And if that's not happening, then you create space however you need to keep yourself safe mentally and physically. So it's a lot of boundary work, I think, for adults and for kids, just to learn that you're allowed to have boundaries and you're allowed to say no, especially to adults. And regardless of your age, those adults are expected to follow whatever boundary you're placing out there. And if they don't respect it, then you have to like redraw what your relationship will look like with them going forward.
Yeah, that's good advice. And that is the big difference between adults and children too, is as an adult, hopefully we are in a better position to be able to handle that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you want to say with respect to any of this process at all?
Nobody's alone in it, unfortunately. And people are very emboldened by keyboards, and COVID did not do anybody any services when it came to that social input. And, everyone was behind a keyboard for 2 years at least. And the filters have been significantly decreased. So everyone's out there just saying what comes to their head. So everyone's got to relearn what a filter is and how to be kind.
Yeah, that is very important. And a lot of times I hear people say that if you wouldn't say it to your grandmother, don't say it to somebody else. And I think that is, I think just the concept of saying it to your grandmother is somebody that's older that you know and love. So just if it's not your grandmother, just think about saying something. Would you say this to your best friend? Would you say this to somebody that's really important to you? And if you wouldn't, maybe it's not worth saying.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So for those of you who are usually on my Wake Up Wednesdays, you may be wondering why I'm talking about bullying with entrepreneurs. So let me ask you a couple questions. Do you allow your clients to bully you into doing things outside the scope of their contract? Do you bully others into giving you more than originally discussed? Something like, hey, I'm a really good customer. How about you give me a little bit more of this for a little bit less? Joe down the street does it a lot cheaper. So what do you do? Do you do any of that? And you don't want to worry about losing your customer. So another concept is, what about your driving? There are a lot of bullies out there driving, or when you're in a hurry. Do you cross that line or allow others to cross that line? So let me ask you this. What bold action can you take today to be aware of how bullying affects you and your business and possibly your loved ones? Here's to your successful business. Until next time, dream bravely, act boldly, live vibrantly.